these needs are very real. And what's fascinating to me is that there are so many kind of interlocking gears among the various things that are addressed in what you're going to hear today. But what's probably even as important as we think about the work we do together is that we are not without resources across the state of Georgia and here in Athens. And among those most important resources is each and every one of you, because we have so many bright and talented and deeply committed people who are going to work your fingers to the bone, as I know so many of you do every day, to make sure we address the needs of this community and the needs of this state. So God bless you all for just being who you are every single day. So give yourselves a round of applause just for being here right now. You could be over Big City Bread, getting a cup of coffee and a cookie. You know, you could be out walking on the Greenway on this beautiful afternoon, but you're right here to make Athens and Georgia a better place. So without further ado, I think I'd like to call Marissa Chastain up. I think she is next. So come on down, Marissa, from the Athens Area Chamber of Commerce.
Hi, everyone. I'm Marissa Chastain, the Vice President of Operations for the Athens Area Chamber of Commerce. And we are so honored to be chosen as the host city and to have this opportunity to work with Georgia Forward and our Young Gamechangers cohort this year. To those of you who traveled from across the state to be with us and to do this work here in our community, we want to thank you for your time, your investment in Athens. And for our Athenians in the cohort, we want to thank you for putting your heart into this work and into your community. We are so honored to have you all as part of the fabric that makes Athens what it is. So I know we're all excited to hear the presentation, so I'm going to keep it brief, but I am going to end by quoting our president, David Bradley. I'm sure many of you have heard him say, "The best Athens is the Athens ahead of us." So that's what we're looking forward to hearing about today. Thank you all.
All right. Hi, good morning. My name is Kat Canella, and I'm one of the facilitators with the Young Gamechangers program and with Georgia Forward. A quick thank you to our steering committee. Without these individuals, we would not have the challenge questions that our class worked so diligently on for the past 7 months. So shout out to these folks. You guys are the real MVPs. We appreciate you so very, very, very much. Yes, indeed. And with that, I'd like to welcome our first group to the stage, Athens United.
Good afternoon, everybody. We're going to kick it off here. Like Kat said, our team name is Athens United. We were faced with a challenge question regarding the town and gown relationship between the university and Athens-Clarke County here in Athens. So I'll review our challenge question real quick, and then we'll jump into it. The University of Georgia is a big part of the Athens identity, yet the relationship between the university and the broader community is complex. How can we improve the town and gown relationship to foster stronger collaboration and shared initiatives to ensure the university and the community are working together toward common goals? As Sadie said, our group is made up of a third of us from Athens, a third of us from Atlanta, and a third of us from the greater Georgia area. So these are the folks that have worked on this question this year. And our three big ideas, just in quick summary, the first is All In for Athens, which is a community awareness campaign to try to highlight the good things that are already happening within this relationship. The second is the Classic City Pathway, centered around bringing youth and students closer to the University of Georgia that grow up in Athens that may not feel that the university is accessible, and try to provide a cleaner, smoother transition to try to step into it if they so choose. And then the last is kind of the pie in the sky goal, which is the Campus and Community Engagement Center, which would be a true brick and mortar establishment to show something and have a local gathering place that really exemplifies this relationship. So with that, I'll turn it over to Erica.
Thank you, David. Good afternoon. My name is Erica Ratcliffe, and I'll be sharing more about our All In for Athens initiative. All In for Athens is a campus and community awareness campaign created to close the perception gap between the university and the county. Collaboration is already happening in the areas of public safety, the arts, and economic development, but too often it goes unnoticed. This campaign brings those partnerships into the light, making them visible, accessible, and consistent. Here's how that plan comes to life. Through storytelling and media engagement, we can highlight real examples of partnership and remind people of the impact these relationships have on daily life. A joint newsletter co-written by UGA and Athens-Clarke County would help to amplify existing publications and allow resources and updates to live in one place. And a campus website can serve as a central hub for services, events, and information. We also recommend investing in interactive tools that strengthen connection between the campus and community. For example, See-Click-Fix provides residents with a civic platform to report and track non-emergency issues such as broken streetlights and noise complaints. A tool like this could serve as shared digital infrastructure, linking student and resident concerns with local government services and creating a unified channel for neighborhood problem solving. An interactive digital kiosk placed in high-traffic areas could give people quick access to services and community resources in real time. The rollout of this campaign is designed to build momentum over time. The first 6 months would focus on leadership buy-in, collecting surveys, developing branding, and launching the joint newsletter. By the 12-month mark, the campaign would roll out the See-Click-Fix app, add more storytelling, and lean into media outreach. Beyond the first year, the emphasis shifts to long-term sustainability, evaluating results, and securing funding. And these all help to keep the efforts growing. Sorry, y'all. Funding can come from a mix of state, local, and philanthropic sources, including the Georgia Department of Community Affairs, community policing grants, and foundations such as Coca-Cola and Ford. Startup costs are estimated between $115,000 and $223,000, with annual operating costs ranging from $23,000 to $50,000, depending on scale. And additional information can be found in our final detailed written report. The All In for Athens campaign is about correcting misinformation and making invisible collaborations visible, and reminding both students and residents that we are not two separate communities, we are Athens United. And I will turn it over to Demetrius to talk about our Classic City Pathway initiative.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Erica. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Demetrius, and I have the privilege to talk to you about the Classic City Pathway. Education is the foundation of opportunity. And in a town and gown community like Athens-Clarke County, the opportunity must be shared across both campus and city. With that being said, too often, many students begin with a promise, but somehow they get lost along the way. Sometimes transfer credits don't align, and sometimes the support systems just aren't in place to keep them on track. But by strengthening connections between Athens Technical College, the University of Georgia, and the local Clarke County school systems, the Classic City Pathway focuses on workforce education as a bridge to workforce readiness, ensuring that students not only enter college, but graduate prepared to thrive in the local economy and community. Let's see what that looks like. The Classic City Pathway is designed to bridge the workforce gap, aligning Athens-Clarke County schools with Athens Technical College and UGA into one seamless educational pipeline. The goal is to create a clear, affordable, and supportive route from high school through Athens Tech and on to UGA, increasing degree completion and opportunity for local students to build a stronger Athens. In high school, students start with dual enrollment. Students start with dual enrollment at Athens Tech, a path already taken by about 1 in 4 Athens Tech students. From there, the Classic City Pathway will provide transfer advising and academic alignment to ensure credits move seamlessly from Athens Tech onto UGA. At UGA, students join a living learning community that offers academic support, mentorship, leadership development, as well as workshops on financial literacy and career planning. Modeled after similar articulation programs at Clemson and Augusta University, The Classic City Pathway adapts to Athens' needs by building on the 38 transferable credits already approved in statewide courses and adding community, mentorship, and long-term support. So, what does it look like? In the short term, we will finalize an articulation agreement, build a program website, and recruit advisors, as well as begin outreach to local high schools. Within 1 to 3 years, we will pilot the first cohort, launching the Living Learning Community at UGA, and begin tracking outcomes both academically and socially. On the long term, we see scaling up the program to expand into additional majors as well as career pathways, as well as building an alumni network to sustain the cycle of mentorship. We estimate serving roughly about 25 students per year in the initial phase, with tuition and fees covered by HOPE, or the Zell Miller Scholarship, and room and board subsidized by UGA. Funding for that may come from the Why Georgia Works Alignment Grant, HOPE Career Grant, Athens Area Community Foundation, and local donations or crowdfunding. We truly believe that this has the potential to have real impact: higher enrollment, stronger retention, and more Athenians graduating with degrees in hand and careers ahead of them. The Classic City Pathway is not just an academic program. It's an investment in community, in the long-term workforce of Athens-Clarke County. With seamless paths to education created and proper support provided, students won't just go to college, they'll graduate. Giving back to the community, giving back to Athens, and building a stronger, thriving Classic City. Everett's going to close us out with our big idea number 3, campus and community engagement. Thank you so much.
What if Athens had a space where collaboration between town and gown wasn't just an idea, but it was a reality? Hello, my name is Everett Easterling, and I'm excited to share our vision for what we believe will become the true center of excellence, a physical manifestation of partnership between community and university. The Campus and Community Engagement Center, a dynamic, mixed-use facilities designed to support existing shared initiatives and spark new opportunities between Athens-Clarke County and the University of Georgia. This center will stand as a symbol of shared ownership, mutual respect, and collaboration, a space equally utilized and centrally located to strengthen the bond between the university and the community. Our key recommendations are centrally located, accessible to both campus and community, joint programming, resources for students, faculty, business owners, and residents, and then finally, shared spaces, event venues, meeting rooms, co-working areas, offices to foster town and gown relationships in Athens. In regards to the action plan, to make this vision a reality, we propose a phased approach. First, clarifying the vision, aligning stakeholders, and establishing foundational planning. Then moving into phase 2, conduct feasibility studies, build partnerships, secure early commitments, and plan staffing. Finally, focus on capital development, construction, and operational launch. Each phase ensures sustainability and alignment with the needs of both the university and the community. Funding will start with the capital commitment from UGA, signaling institutional buy-in and attracting major donors. Additional sources include public funding, SPLOS, local bonds, and federal programs, plus creative options like naming rights, sponsorship tiers, in-kind contributions, and private partnerships. We have 2 options for budgets. The first, ground-up construction, including the land procurement, is estimated around $5 to $10 million. The second option would be a lease and renovation option, which would be an annual lease around $200,000 to $275,000, with an initial renovation cost of $2.5 to $5 million. This center is more than just a building. It is really a promise of shared growth, mutual respect, and a stronger, more connected Athens. Together, we can make this vision a reality.
Thank you guys again for being here. Before we open it up for questions, we do want to take a second and thank those community partners and participants, UGA faculty and personnel that met with us, shared time, energy, and resources with us to help build some of our cases for these and help us kind of zero in on what we wanted to tackle throughout this year. So I think there are some mics floating around out there, if I'm not mistaken. If there's any questions, happy to help answer it. And there is more of our team in the back who will assist as well. I hope.
Please feel free to raise your hand with any questions. We'll come around to you with a mic. Don't be shy. All right. Oh, we got one right here. Yes, ma'am. So the question is, are there models of this community engagement plan that from other cities that we can use as an example?
Yes, so as far as the tangible space, there are a handful of other universities that are referenced in our final report. I believe Nebraska and Purdue were some of them. We tried to find cities and towns and universities of similar sizes. There is no one city that's exactly to Athens as UGA and Athens are, but there are similarities of them, and we referenced some of those in our final report. Yes, Elaine?
A landmark or something we could really protect?
Yes, so I'm a local general contractor in town, for those that don't know. I'd love to build it if it ever happens. But yeah, so we came up with budget options for ground up construction and the lease and reuse of existing spaces. I pictured and talked to a handful of people around here about the locations. There's Millage, there's downtown. Downtown has its own problems and issues. Yeah, any of those areas that can kind of do it. Our main key, if we were to be talking about it and looking at site selection with somebody, is how can we find the place that fits the needs, but also fits these two entities that both people and both groups
Feel welcome.
can feel comfortable.
Yeah,
So
that's wonderful. Just FYI, Georgia Trust for Historic Preservation is in town, so be mindful.
got it.
Thank you.
So the question is, you mentioned that in like the first cohort you're looking at about 25 students from the community. How many current students at UGA are from the community? So would 25 be an increase, or would it be on par or a decrease? Thanks.
I don't have those numbers directly in front of me. They are in our report. However, 25 would be an increase, not knowing the exact numbers, but 25 would go further toward strengthening the bond between Athens Tech and UGA and increasing Athenians going to UGA. So we want to start somewhere. The question is, what are our biggest obstacles to complete this project? I'm not from Athens, so I might defer to David before I say something to put my foot in my mouth.
Are you talking specifically for Classic City Pathway or the Community Engagement Hub, or all three?
Your whole project, what do you foresee would be the biggest obstacles as you're engaging local community partners, stakeholders in this? What's the pushback that y'all may get from those individuals?
Yeah, so kind of tying in the first big idea that we had talked about with the awareness campaign, just being from Athens, what I see as the biggest obstacle in this whole conversation about town and gown relations is the perception of said relationship. Some perceptions may be valid, some may not be valid, and trying to bring folks together to have real conversation about strengthening those and investing time and resources, because some of this is low-hanging fruit, can be very easily attained. Some of this is $10 million project type stuff, and in reality, the simple stuff nor the expensive hard stuff will happen if people aren't willing to address the real parts of the issues, as well as just kind of call out some of the gossip and construction of some of the issues too. So that was broad, but trying to answer it broadly to our challenge question as well.
I'm just curious about what existing paths from ATC to UGA there are. I know that they have those 38 transferable credits. Do we have an articulation agreement that is funneling kids from Athens Tech to UGA? Or does that not really exist at this time?
Currently, from our research, there's not a formalized articulation agreement. However, several students from the local community colleges do go to UGA once they complete. Part of that Classic City Pathway is making that agreement formalized so we can streamline that process. The 38 transferable credits is a statewide kind of mandate with the colleges, so it's already partly in place. Let's just get it on paper and let's get it rolling. Great questions.
This young lady over here first.
Just curious, what kind of mapping did you do of Athens, and is this generally downtown Athens, or is it across all of Athens, as far as especially places that you would consider putting something like this that would be accessible?
Yeah, so we talked about Prince, we talked about Millage, downtown with its own challenges. Just shortly in East Athens, on the east side of town towards like Oconee Street, that area. Really with it being centered around Town and Gown, it can't be 5 miles from the university, in our opinion, but it also doesn't need to be across from Tate and the stadium. Like, neither of those things accomplish the geographical concerns to try to make that a shared space, but we threw a lot of those kind of ideas into the report, but we would want the community to be bought into said location and who would be targeting to use it, so, yep.
Hi, Tommy Valentine, Historic Athens. So this is a really important topic. I know, having grown up here in Athens and having now been a triple dog, Town and Gown's really important. However, the two tangible places that are most associated with Town and Gown, like places, the President's House, Legion Field, and Pool, are both either being relinquished or demolished. In your research and in your intersecting with the university and the city, did you determine that there's any kind of appetite for a place like your third option?
Yes. This came about to us as something that UGA personnel and folks that have grown up in this city wanted it. And really, once we started looking into it, to reference an earlier question, once we knew that there were other brick and mortar establishments that are truly just centered around this, and that there are people here in this town that have pointed us to those, it was eye-opening, because when I first heard about it, I was like, that sounds great on paper, like, are people gonna wanna use it? But just like this space here, like having a space where it can be collaborative for whatever the use. It can be an internal UGA meeting, it can be student groups that just need a place to meet. It can be a place where businesses want to operate and intersect with students. There's just a lot of flexible ways that it can be used. The name on the front of the building in Campus Community Engagement Hub is something, right? It has a lot of uses within it, and we did hear a lot of good feedback of if it could happen, it would be wanted.
Hey, y'all. I am ED of a nonprofit, so wearing my nonprofit hat when I say this. Did you all consider the role nonprofits might play in this space, or I would offer up in a community engagement space of this nature, it could be a great hub for nonprofits as well.
Yeah, another one of our groups has a challenge question a little bit more directed at nonprofits. So I don't want to step on any of their toes, but like I said, we just want this place, if it comes to fruition, to be a place where anyone in this town and anyone at that university feels welcome and has a place to go to collaborate from a student perspective or from a private nonprofit business perspective as well.
Just double checking.
Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you so much, Athens United. Well done, team. As we invite our next group up to the stage, our change crafters. Just a quick reminder, as each group presents their 3 ideas, please hold your applause until the end of all 3 ideas, okay? Thank you.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Oh, come on, one more time. Good afternoon. All right, there it is. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy days to be here with us this afternoon. My name is Jason Edwards, and we are the Change Crafters. When we think of Athens, we think of the smallest county with the biggest heart. While Athens-Clarke County is Georgia's smallest by square mile, its people, resources, and generosity are enormous. At the same time, a lack of coordination and mixed community perceptions can make progress challenging. Our group set out to explore how community resources, such as nonprofits, the University of Georgia, the Clarke County School District, local government, could be used more effectively to meet community needs. Specifically, we asked, how can local leaders take coordinated action to avoid duplicating existing efforts and work together to achieve shared goals? To explore this, we hosted focus groups with over 50 leaders from UGA, CCSD, local government, private industry, nonprofit organizations. Their passion for improving life in Athens guided us in shaping 3 game-changing ideas: a community commitment to early literacy, an annual community-wide event to build bridges and strengthen community, and a purposeful way to connect for-profit and nonprofit businesses for success. Each idea reflects the generosity and collaborative spirit of this small but mighty county. While we've identified potential partners, these ideas are exploratory and not commitments. Now I'm excited to turn it over to Clayton Adams, who will introduce our first big idea. Thank you.
%. 29%. Only 29% of our children in this community are reading proficiently at the end of 3rd grade. Now, why does this matter? It matters because 3rd grade reading proficiency is the key indicator that predicts whether children will graduate from high school, be able to access post-secondary education, and enter the workforce. In response to this crisis, our team proposes Athens Reads, a bold county-wide literacy campaign and commitment to early childhood success. Athens Reads calls on investment from the public, private, and nonprofit sectors to ensure that every child in Athens-Clarke County is reading proficiently by 3rd grade. Now, literacy doesn't start on the first day of school. It starts at birth. And right now, there is a complete absence of collaboration and university support and universal supports for children before they get to kindergarten. Athens Reads builds a seamless birth to 8 pipeline that begins with parent engagement at birth and continues through early elementary school. Athens Reads moves from vision to action with a 3-prong approach. First, with birth to 3, we focus on parents and caregivers, the child's first teachers, equipping them with tools and resources for language nutrition and engagement, setting the stage for literacy success. 2, with pre-K and kindergarten, we target 2 critical levers: increasing pre-K enrollment and access throughout the county, as well as increasing school readiness with kindergarten. And 3rd, With first to third grade, we continue to strengthen and support existing innovation, bolstering Clarke County School District's evidence-based instruction, wraparound supports, and creative partnerships like the Storytellers Literacy Mentor Program. Now, short-term action steps for Athens Reads include naming a champion, such as the Athens Area Chamber of Commerce. We feel that Athens Reads would fit alongside perfectly with Athens Achieves, the Chamber's new workforce initiative, because literacy and third grade proficiency are the cornerstone to career readiness. We then move to launching a literacy council that will help guide Athens Reads. And then finally, securing cross-sector buy-in. Immediate action steps include launching a sustained funding campaign, building brand recognition throughout the county and beyond, and tracking outcomes. And long-term steps are to see an increase in kindergarten readiness and to meet our goal of 60% proficiency. Now, in order for Athens Reads to work, Athens has to work together. We have to move beyond seeing literacy as the job of the school district and understand that it's everyone's responsibility. This is a culture shift. The school district, day in, day out, is doing amazing work, but they cannot do it alone. It takes our families to nurture, our schools to teach, our local government to sustain, our community to invest, and our nonprofits to connect families to supports. Friends, in 2025, it's really dang hard to find one thing we can all agree upon. But we have to come together to agree upon childhood literacy. Our children are behind. What are we going to do about it? We have to start early, and we start with Athens Reads. Thank you. And now, Meredith Stinson will present our big idea number 2.
Thanks, Clayton. I'm Meredith Stinson, and I have the pleasure of presenting our second big idea. As a group, as we began researching and brainstorming ideas to bring community leaders together, we knew we wanted to hear from you, the Athenians, on what your opinion was on the biggest challenges facing your community and why. As Jason said before, we hosted listening sessions this summer that brought together 50 community members across all sectors of government, private, and public sectors. So thank you for all of you who participated. Through those conversations, a discussion emerged on the evident divide between different regions of Athens, specifically the east and west sides of Athens-Clarke County. Residents and leaders on the east side shared challenges they faced for a lack of access to community-based resources and extracurricular activities specifically for their children. While there's a consistent sentiment that there's community leaders actively engaged on both sides of Athens, there are a few times that those leaders are brought together to collaborate and share resources across geographic areas. With this need in mind and a charge from those community leaders to go back to the basics when presenting solutions to Athens' greatest challenges, unity in the community was born. Inspired by the frameworks of Athens-Clarke County Family Fun Day and the Downtown Christmas Parade, Unity in the Community would be a county-wide family-friendly event that brings together all corners of Athens and encourages businesses and industry leaders to showcase those resources available and share with their fellow community members. Unity in the Community would offer 3 things: residents of fun, free, family-friendly activities. It would include vendor tabling and sponsorship opportunities where businesses and community organizations could display valuable local resources for offering to their residents. And 3, it would help facilitate partnerships between organizations and community leaders on differing sides of Athens-Clarke County to grow a more unified Athens and support all areas of the community. So how would we bring unity in the community to life? It would be centered around a core host committee with representation from each major region of Athens and would include a diversity of thought leaders in healthcare, education, nonprofit, and government spaces. As the planning grows, we hope that the host committee would then craft sponsorship opportunities and secure key vendors to be the foundation of the event. The facilitators then would be able to build up branding and marketing materials, lock down a consistent venue and time frame for an annual event, and gather feedback from the community to secure long-term funding sources. Our team envisions Unity in the Community as an event that would break through the barriers of geographic and economic disparity, and a space where parents and community leaders could connect and feed into the families of Athens. It would be one that helps avoid the duplication of resources and the oversaturation of support in specific regions of Athens, but instead promotes coordination and the amazing programs and services Athens organizations have to offer. For a full description of our funding sources and the budgetary recommendations we have, please reference our printed copy of the final recommendations. But with that, I will pass it over to Michelle, who will go through our third big idea.
Thank you so much. And hello, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. We truly appreciate it and know that and hope that you will consider these ideas and put them into action. Now, I have to ask, who here has ever received a sponsorship request? Right? Via email, maybe a request for volunteers, maybe you've sent one too. And with that, how many times have you had to say no? Maybe budgets have already passed, you just said yes to the last group, and while you want to continue to support this group, you just can't make it work right now. With over 600, let me repeat that, over 600 501c3s in the Athens-Clarke County area, it is necessary that we be intentional with our partnerships. And so this is why our proposal is to create a catalog to have that intentionality between our for-profit and nonprofit entities. With that, we hope that entities are able to go say, this is what we need. Whether it's board service, volunteer hours, financial contributions, be specific about how long of a commitment this is. And then for-profit businesses can say yes. Here, we can swipe left or right, just like maybe some of y'all have on a dating app. I won't say anything. But we want that to happen between the for and nonprofit entities as well. We want to find that perfect match because it shouldn't just be a one-time thing. It shouldn't be a sponsorship request that you just get in your email and you say, yeah, I think we can pass that. It should be a long-term commitment because we want to see Athens thrive. And since there is the perception that we are contradictory, that we do have overlapping efforts, this is a way that we are able to see what each nonprofit is doing. We are able to be specific. We are able to work together for success in our community. So with this, we also hope to provide a for-profit engagement guide, and you can see more in your QR code if you scan it, y'all. But we're gonna have that for-profit engagement guide to show what a successful partnership is going to look like. We're also going to work with our community partners, such as the Community Foundation, the Chamber of Commerce, make sure that we have for-profit and nonprofit entities across the board and community all together on this. Because who doesn't want to show support in our area? And then, of course, we want to see recognition. If you, as a consumer, have the choice to pick for-profit business that, yeah, they do a kind of okay job, or another for-profit business that actually supports our community and is able to get recognition through this nonprofit catalog that we hope to digitalize, isn't that success? Isn't that wonderful? And it is a mutual benefit. Aside from that, we also hope that this is going to create more recognition for our Athens area because we do have the smallest county, but we have the biggest heart. With that, I'll turn it over to Ashley Bailey to close us out.
All right, and with that said, we just want to thank you all that are here in the room. We appreciate all of your support, your guidance, your conversations, everything that you've provided our group over this duration, and so now we'd like to open it for questions.
Sorry, I'm going to have to wave my nonprofit flag again. Thank you guys for your ideas. I would concur that we definitely have some divides and challenges as far as where resources sometimes land. I looked at your budget for the event for the community-wide event and looked at the possible partners. I didn't see any references to transportation. We know that one of our biggest systemic issues in this community is access, and specifically to transportation. So what were your thoughts around that and drawing people to this event if they physically can't get there?
I may call on Allison Shaw from our team that's in the audience because she worked
Awesome.
pretty heavily on this.
Hey, so another team is also going to touch on transportation as well. When we were gathering information to come up with this idea from our listening sessions, the biggest thing was focusing heavily on the east side and making sure that there was access to an event over there. Most of the community events in Athens do take place on the west side. And so when we were looking at the intermediate plan, I think when it was up on the screen, really securing that location on the east side of Athens. We had looked at different schools, community parks, and things like that that would hopefully be accessible to many people that do not have transit. And then that'll also be addressed in a different question. But centrally locating and trying to move things to that side of Athens just so that they also have opportunity to access those resources.
And another, just to add to that, we see that, we know that the school district has an amazing, division to family and community engagement. We see them being a really vital partner in this type of work too. So all these ideas this is up for the community to decide what they're going to run with and implement, and we know the school district has access to transportation, so that would be something that we would, encourage them to think through, because that's a really important barrier that Aaron has asked. So thank you.
So my question is basically, are you guys going to be the facilitators of this? Is that what you're proposing? Because a lot of the research, there is Book for Keeps, there is the community guide for nonprofits that's set up by the Community Foundation. So I'm just kind of wondering, are you guys going to be facilitating and merging those nonprofits to work together?
Yeah, specifically towards the nonprofit catalog. So in general, all of these ideas are recommendations to you all and to us as Athens citizens. And so with that, we have spoken with the Community Foundation specifically about potentially implementing that and what that would look like with their current system and the cost of that as well. Hopefully it continues to expand to where it is just a one-stop shop. This is the one area that every for-profit and nonprofit entity can go to really see success, rather than having multiple collaborations throughout. So it would really be up to them or whichever entity to determine if they wanted to do that. And same thing with all of the ideas that are presented here today. We went to the community, to many in this room, to say, what do we need? Here is our questions. Let's gather this information, and based upon that, this is what we came up with accumulatively. Hopefully that answers your question.
I'm going to dig a little deeper regarding Athens Reads. We had the Dolly Parton Imagination Library in this town for years, and I sat on that board, and United Way did a great job, and the hospitals did a great job of making parents aware the minute the baby was born that program existed, but you can't make the parents parent the kids. That's something that's going to be really difficult, and we've continued to see that. But now to learn that program, when it was turned over to Books for Keeps, is now no longer in existence is devastating to this community. So how can Athens Read? I mean, it's all going to come down to funding. We all know everything comes down to money. And so you spend all this time and energy doing this, and you get a program up and running, and then the funding is gone in 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. I mean, I know Dolly Parton's Imagination Library was around for at least a decade. So why is that gone? Because that implemented the birth to pre-K, and then Books for Keeps picked it up from pre-K on through 5th grade, getting books in children's hands. I mean, the Dolly Parton's Imagination Library was every single month for 5 years of their life, and now that's gone. So how is this different than what we've already had?
Absolutely. So in regards to Dolly Parton's library, my wife and I received those books for our children. And I mean, I can close my eyes and see our young kids going out to the mailbox and opening them up. I understand that loss. That is just one aspect of Athens Reads. And really, when it comes down to funding, because right now, y'all, we all deal with it. We all know it's not looking good. for us with funding. We're all fighting for the same small piece of pie in Athens-Clarke County, right? But it comes down to priorities. We have to make this a priority. And I feel like when we get that across to the entire public, private, and nonprofit sectors of making this a priority, in that if we start early, a lot of the stuff on the back end, hopefully we will not have to deal with. And also, by also framing literacy around a workforce piece, I feel like that is something that is lost, and that would open up so many more doors to this community and beyond when it comes to funding streams. But Dolly Parton Imagination Library, that was a huge loss. I believe that cost around $60,000, I believe, you know. And that's something that that's low-hanging fruit that hopefully we would be able to pick up on day one and continue that. But again, that is just one piece to the literacy initiative.
Thank you guys so much for a great presentation. I want to come back to the initial challenge question and push a little bit on the lack of coordination. And as a steering committee member, want to publicly push back on that and ask you all, from your perspective, studying this question, do you believe there are too many nonprofits? And do you believe there is a lack of coordination?
I think the biggest lesson that we took away from that is, I mean, and part of this is, you have students who are very motivated to come to the university and want to give back to the community in a good way, right? And they start it, it's great, but then what happens? Athens is transient, they graduate, they go, right? And I think that comes to a big part of that number that feels so inflated at 600. To answer your question about the lack of either motivation or coordination, there's none of that. I mean, people want to work together, and there has been so many people for a long time who are doing it and doing it really well. And internally, we weren't sure about that question that we were proposed to. So we had a little pushback, Sarah, as well, because we know that Athens really is a place that people want to do really good work. And we find that collaboration, isn't really the problem, but it is sitting down and let's be strategic about this, because maybe there are 3 or 4 organizations that are committed to similar work, but they're maybe kind of operating in a silo, and if we can bring them together, well, maybe it's a win-win. And I'll let Michelle add to that if she wants.
Yeah.
The question, and then I'll stop. Then what recommendations do you all have for us to mitigate the perception meets reality of a collaboration? We're not arguing about the next Walmart or Target, but we're arguing about the thing that's going to, solve for emergency and crisis. Yeah. And so I'd love your recommendations.
Yeah, and so kind of following up on what Jason said too in your first question, is part of it too is the nonprofit industries work amazing together. They continue to communicate, but what we heard at our listening sessions is that people don't believe that they do. And so because of that, we are thinking to do a better job of communicating to the general public and to for-profit industries, because that was another facet that came up. They thought that our for-profit industries weren't doing enough. And I can say there is collaboration on both ends. Now, there could always be more money to give. We'd love to have that. But to be able to show everybody, our public, what resources are there, what is going on, what projects, who is working with who, because we also know that a lot of our nonprofits are very specific. They may be in the same lane, but they are going at very different areas, right? And so we want to ensure that those are also being broadcasted and are being done justice as well. And so that is why the catalog specifically, and you can tell I'm probably gonna be more passionate about it than not going forward as well, is so crucial, because we can give this to any single person in our community and say, this is what we have a need for, and this is what is being done. And we can all work together, so that way people can find resources, nonprofits are able to go and find partners, and for-profits are able to continue to be invested in our community where we live, work, and play.
And real quick, just a general statement on nonprofits, and I know, Sarah, you know this, is 600 plus nonprofits a lot for a community of this size? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But what we do know in this current landscape is that funding is only going to get worse, and these nonprofits are going to barely survive. So what do we do as a community to help lift these nonprofits that may not have the high capacity as some of our larger nonprofits? And I think that is something that we're going to see in the next 6 to 12 months.
Clayton, you can hang on to the mic because I got a question. And this follows up to my friend in the audience. You had a 3-part question, and the first 2 parts, I think you did a great job answering. One was about financing, which you said priorities, and the second one was about Dolly Parton's Imagination Library and the deficit of that. But I think I want to hone in on the 3rd part of your question again because it's so important, and that is we've done a lot in this community around literacy, right? And we're daily, of course, and walking with the school district as they do it. How is this different? How is Athens Reads different than the previous things that have been done or than what's going on right now? I think that's the part of your question that I would love to hear you speak to a little bit more, Clay.
I think what makes this different is that we are trying to align all sectors of Athens-Clarke County with a push with the workforce aspect of it. You know, because when we're talking about literacy, we're talking about the present and the future. These 3rd graders and beyond, this is my wife, by the way, so thank you for that. You know, we're looking at our children and we're looking at them as, okay, literacy right now, but also they're going to be in the workforce in 15, 20 years, or for our daughter, I don't know, 7 years. So what role do for-profits play in this, right? As you know, using the example of the chamber as the champion for Athens Reads, what could they do with the 900 plus membership that they have? What would that look like to engage those folks? Because remember, like I said and ended with, it's hard to get everybody in agreement on one thing. If I ask the first 10 people, what's the one thing we have to focus on Athens to make it better? You all may give me 10 different answers. So again, we have to make it the priority, and we have to include everyone. And this is an issue for all of Athens, all children, whether you go to CCSD schools or not.
Hi, I'm a MSW student at the University of Georgia, but I also work as a community support individual at Social Empowerment Center. I work with children that are in the Clarke County on 3rd grade and around that sort of age group. How are you going to show to parents that literacy truly is a huge priority in their life when they have other issues such as rent assistance that they need or food insecurity? How are you going to show that or how are you going to help support or collaborate with these programs that are going to help these children obtain these needs before they see literacy as a true issue in their life?
So it's not one or nothing, right? It's not when working with parents or caregivers, whomever. Right now you have to work on literacy, and then later you have to work on whatever the issue. Totally understand that these families are on the brink, right? Whether tomorrow they are homeless and go into the food pantry or in an hour, right? But we know that our parents love. We know that. How do we tap into that? And how do we make sure all of the other supports that Clarke County School District is doing already with the wraparound supports, how do we know that we are all in lockstep together? Again, it's not all or nothing, y'all. It's not, right now we're only doing literacy, and then next week we're going to work on housing, and then next week we're working on the other thing. How do we collaborate and coordinate where all of those pieces can align together?
think I saw one more hand over here, two more hands, last two questions, and then we'll move on to the next group.
Yeah, hey, I'll stand up and talk with this. So I think the whole 605, 610 nonprofits in our community, also make sure you're taking that to account with schools, with churches, with your PTOs that are out there. So I don't think we should look at the number from a not-for-profit size. I think we should look at the budget, right, of like what type of impact they're doing and where we could combine resources. I will say from those big three ideas, and I'm a Clarke County School District graduate, I'm pretty sure we were like 61% in the year 2000 for reading efficiency from our graduating class, and obviously we were a lot further down on that list at 29%. But out of those three big ideas, is there one of those three that y'all feel like y'all could implement that would make an immediate reaction, an immediate impact in this community, as opposed to kind of broadening out and dispersing?
So one thing, Evan, that I will clarify on is we actually pulled this up a little bit earlier. So there are 602 501c3s, according to the IRS, that is registered in Clarke County. There are over 740 that are listed as tax exempt, according to the IRS. So that is where we also get more into, you know, your 501c4s and other organizations too. So I feel like that is also a good clarification. But I would probably say that each of us feel differently on this, and I think maybe our group can attest to that as well, that I mean, we wouldn't be proposing these things if we didn't think that they are actionable and they will also create such a big difference. Because that is something we heard throughout this process, you know, to think big, but all of us kept going back and saying, well, we want to think big, but we want to think, how do we make a big difference that is also realistic? And so I feel all of us would really tell you something different. Y'all can speak if I'm incorrect on that too, but.
I have a question here. First of all, I'd like to know, and again, curiosity question, were you surprised at the number of nonprofits that were in Clarke County? I think you mentioned that you weren't sure how many there should be. But secondly, as far as the percentage of students who were not at grade level on reading, was that a surprise thing? And I want to also add that what is already stationary in Athens-Clarke County is a large school district, and they have children 6 hours a day where they're captive audience. I'm trying to understand the additional finances, the additional support, et cetera, when it's not coming from the school system. And I do understand the nuances of that.
So when it comes to surprises on nonprofits or reading proficiency, you know, personally, I'm not surprised with it, but I also have lived in Athens for 15 years and do a lot of work in the community. Now, when we step outside here and go downtown at a bar and ask somebody, hey, how many, and try to guess, they probably would have no clue. So everybody here may know that, but outside of these walls may not. And when it comes to the literacy question in Clarke County, we're talking about focusing on building a pipeline that begins at zero. That 0 to 5 piece is the real critical piece, because those children are scattered in a variety of locations and not yet at the school district for 6 hours a day the majority of the year with all the supports. So that's where it's really critical to think of, when you're looking at the pipeline, thinking about the beginning piece on where are children at. Because when it comes to pre-K, 4 and 5-year-olds, there are over 6,000 children in Athens who are 5 and under. Only 690 go to public pre-K. That's a big gap, y'all. That's a huge gap. Now, what is happening with those folks who are not in school? Those are the folks we are trying to reach. Those are the families that we are trying to reach.
I know you still have more questions yet, so please feel free to catch some of our group members after the presentation today and pick their brains and shake them down for more questions. But thank you all for your engagement now. I'd like to invite our next group up onto the stage, Level Ground.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Again, we thank you so much for being here for a part of our recommendations. My name is Jeffrey Burke. I live here in Athens, Georgia, and work at the University of Georgia as a public service faculty member. Whether it's enjoying dinner at your favorite restaurant downtown, a concert at the Georgia Center, or a high school or college football game, Athens, Georgia is a town that's recognized for its tourism, academic opportunities, and a vibrant culture. Yet despite these many strengths, economic disparity remains a pressing issue, with poverty rates in Athens-Clarke County consistently above the state average. We are Team Level Ground. Over the past several months, as part of the Young Gamechangers cohort, we've been challenged to confront economic disparity in Athens-Clarke County. Our team comes from communities all across Georgia, which helps us learn from other communities' successes like Augusta, Atlanta, Savannah, and Valdosta. It's our diverse experiences today that have allowed us to approach this challenge from many angles. Investments in places, programs, and people not only meet today's needs, but they also lay the foundation for future generations to live, learn, and thrive in Athens-Clarke County. Take Tanisha Brooks, for example, who, as a single parent, while living in public housing, worked tirelessly to earn her degree to open up doors for her family. She's seen firsthand the challenges and the barriers faced by many locals in creating a better life for themselves in our community. To that end, we've developed 3 big ideas to support middle-class growth, focused on childcare, community wellness, and housing. Together, we're excited to walk you through the highlights of these ideas and the potential that they hold for the future of Athens-Clarke County. And up first, we'll start with Crayons to Careers.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Yuri Register, and I work with Southern Georgia Regional Commission. We recognize that there are multiple barriers to entry into the workforce, but after many conversations with community stakeholders, we have chosen to focus on child care access. The poverty rate is about 26%, nearly double the Georgia average, and only 62% of adults participate in the labor force. For single-parent families, the poverty rate tops at 37%. These numbers tell us that if we want middle-class growth, we must remove the barriers that keep parents from working and training. Our solution is Crayons to Careers, an initiative that strengthens the workforce and boosts economic mobility by expanding affordable, high-quality childcare, the single biggest barrier for parents who want to work and upskill. Athens have over 6,200 children under 5, but only 36 licensed providers. Only 17 of these are quality rated. As you can see on the map, there are limited child care options in Athens-Clarke County. And even when families find a seat, the cost exceeds federal affordability guidelines. Our recommendations for the Crayons to Career model are: expand access to affordable, high-quality child care by prioritizing underserved neighborhood and single-parent families. Align child care with workforce and economic development by integrating child care with job training and employment programs to boost the labor force participation. Build cross-sector partnerships by convening regular collaboration among providers, employers, schools, and government to coordinate resources and strategies. Support and incentivize providers by offering grants and technical assistance to help more centers achieve the quality rated status and serve children with disabilities. We will launch collaborative funding models by implementing cost-sharing programs like threefold care, dividing child care costs among public sector and employers' families. And finally, expand employer partnerships by encouraging businesses, especially shift-based industries, to provide on-site or shared child care and flexible hours for working families. The Crayons to Careers tackles the problems on 3 fronts. It creates capacity by helping existing providers add seats and extend evening and weekend hours, align schedules to synchronize child care hours with local training programs and employerships, and lower net costs. Stat, federal, state, local, and employer funds so families' out-of-pocket costs stay near the 7% threshold. And in order to implement these recommendations, Athens can focus on strengthening child care across working families by engaging statewide initiatives and building cross-sector partnerships. Our medium-term action includes promoting affordable child care by supporting providers and leveraging collaborative funding incentives. And finally, Athens can advance long-term child care solutions by growing employer partnerships and expanding inclusive, affordable, and flexible options for families. A detailed budget of these recommendations is shared in the full report. Potential funding includes various federal and state resources, including WIOA funding and WorkSource Georgia, local resources such as ACC Foundation and SPLOSH funding, and tapping into multiple private sources. With this model, we anticipate higher labor force participation as parents can train and work, stronger workforce pipelines by integrating child care access with developmental programs, better child development and school readiness through quality-rated early learning, greater household economic mobility where families can increase income and build wealth, community growth and stability as employers join and invest in these family-friendly practices, and Crayons to Careers is more than child care, it's a workforce infrastructure. When families can work while children learn, Athens builds a resilient middle class from the nursery up. And now you'll hear about Thrive Hub recommendation from Lamar.
Good afternoon. I'm Lamar Handy, and I work at Emory University and also the D.O. Handy Foundation. I'm going to talk to you all about our second big idea about Thrive Hubs. The Thrive Hubs are going to actually be created to kind of help meet families at every stage of life, whether it may be to help them with empowerment within their everyday lives, financial empowerment, and also life learning lessons, as well as helping them to continue to thrive here in Athens-Clarke County. And so some of my recommendations that we have for this plan, first starting to help remove some of these barriers. One barrier we see is that the barrier to get these services that comes to the actual community. Also to help bring wraparound services to local neighborhoods in the Athens-Clarke County community that may be suffering to get the help they need. Also, as we've heard before, helping to align with other nonprofits within the community as a partner, and also to be able to partner with key developers to help build Thrive Hubs in these communities. And so based on our research and things that we got from different aspects of life, we chose 3 different neighborhoods to recommend this to. First being Brookside West, Columbia Brookside West, that used to be formerly Pardo. Also, we have Bethel Homes, and also we have Nellie B. And as you will see here on the map, we have 3 stars to kind of give you an idea of where these neighborhoods are actually located here in Athens-Clarke County. And so some of our action steps we want to take to help with these Thrive Hubs, being our first phase 1 would be to have a strategic plan and also a partner alignment. Being able to have a plan of how we're going to actually send these in the neighborhoods and how they can help actually benefit those living in these areas. Phase 2 would be a design and infrastructure setup. Going to these actual neighborhoods to figure out how can this support the neighborhood and where may be the right strategic place to put these Thrive Hubs in these 3 neighborhoods. Phase 3 would be to pilot and also have a community engagement. How can we get you sitting here in the audience today and other stakeholders in the community to be a part of this actual phase 3? And then our final phase will be for expansion and also to kind of help partner this out to not just the 3 neighborhoods we already have mentioned, but also to make this a worldwide thing when it comes to Athens-Clarke County community. The big question you may be asking is, how will we fund this? First way would be through the Community Development Block Grant, also through the HUD grant, and also through the Athens Foundation. And we have detailed information with this in our report that you can find if you scan the QR code as well. And of course, we want to make sure that we have great impact within the community. And so how can this impact our community? First, it can help improve community success, giving access to physical, mental, and also preventive health services. Also helping to advance the educational and also the digital equity for our students K through 12. Also helping to promote financial stability. As we do know, finances is a big thing, a huge thing that a lot of people in neighborhoods don't know a lot about. Also strengthening the intergenerational engagement, making sure that our youth, our adults, and our seniors also feel connected and feel like they have all the right services and resources they need in their community. And then 4 is being able to empower our local voices and our leadership. People like you here today that can help us get this started and help to bring these wraparound services to our communities and also to Athens-Clarke County. Next, you're going to hear from Ms. Kim Wilder, who's going to talk about our Big Idea 3.
Good afternoon. My name is Kimberly Wilder. I'm an attorney and economic developer based in Augusta, Georgia. Our third big idea is pathway to home ownership. From 2020 to 2024, the median house price in Athens went from $220,000 to $335,000. That surge pushed home ownership further and further away from residents, long-term residents in Athens-Clarke County. The Pathway to Home Ownership Initiative is a sustainable pathway, is a program and an initiative that is going to, that we hope will aim, I apologize. The Pathway to Home Ownership Initiative aims to fight back against that trend by creating home ownership opportunities in historically and culturally significant neighborhoods. Of course, we want to preserve the heritage of those neighborhoods, respect the people who have always lived in the Athens area, and give them opportunities to build wealth, with the goal of closing the wealth gap in the Athens-Clarke County community. To get this program started, the first thing we'll have to do is establish the program itself. Secondly, we want to reestablish the land bank. The land bank will serve as the entity in which the properties will flow through from Athens-Clarke County or from old owners into the organization, which will then build out this program. The next step will be to identify and map out the neighborhoods that we think this program should start in, and then which neighborhoods this program can grow to, so that the program can continue to grow and thrive throughout the Athens community. Once that's done, we would like to hire a full-time program manager to manage not only the projects, but the program. Once we have the land, once we have the neighborhoods mapped out, the next step is to acquire the homes and properties. There are plenty of blighted properties in Athens-Clarke County that need help, that need restoration, that are not being worked on. Those are the homes that we can acquire in those neighborhoods. There's also land that's available that is vacant, and that this organization would then acquire that land and build on that land or renovate those properties and offer those properties for sale for people who are long-term residents of Athens-Clarke County. We understand there are some financial barriers for people to own those homes, so what we want to do is launch a transitional rental program. It's sort of like a rent-to-own program. It gives people the opportunity to live in that neighborhood while also building a community. So not just building a neighborhood, but building community with each other. Offer them opportunities to learn about credit, to help them improve credit, to give them the opportunity to get used to living in that house, paying those bills, and get accustomed to some of the expected and unexpected responsibilities of home ownership. After that, we just continue to expand. We've developed several places or several sources that we can fund this project through the Georgia Trust for Historic Preservation, Athens Land Trust, as well as the American Rescue Plan Act, and the Georgia Environmental Finance Authority for low-interest loans. Overall, the impact that this program can have is very simple. When you build neighborhoods and you allow people to build and to own home ownership, that increases their ability to build wealth. And as the community builds wealth, the entire community will profit from that. And I don't mean just financially, but you mean from a crime standpoint, from the ability to get to some of these programs, the ability to work, and the ability to maintain their housing. And this will overall contribute to the betterment of Athens-Clarke County. Thank you.
Athens is a place where people want to live, they want to work, and they want to thrive. And our recommendations are designed to help make that possible for more families. By investing in childcare, community wellness, and housing, we can strengthen Athens-Clarke County's foundation for long-term success. Today, we have shared 3 big ideas with you that have been proven successful in Georgia and around the country. We recognize that implementation of these ideas would need the support from the people in this room, and as we look to do that, we'd look for your support to help navigate the way. At this time, we look forward to your thoughts and are happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank y'all for sharing. That was great. A question specific to the home ownership component. I know that y'all listed some funding options and grants and things of that nature. How would you see community banks or financial institutions partnering to enhance that or bridge some of those gaps?
Well, is this on? We would hope that some of our, especially local banks, would partner with us to help provide, as we talked about, some of the low interest loans. There are programs that some of the banks locally and national banks have that have home ownership programs through them. And by completing those programs, completing certain courses, it does lower the interest rates. We will also are offering through the Thrive Hubs and the home ownership programs opportunities to learn about credit repair, how to build your credit. And I think all of those things will help potential homeowners get into those houses. And by doing the rent-to-own program, that is in itself building your credit, because having a good rental history, having home experience and ownership, and going through that program will help the potential home buyers qualify for a long-term loan.
And also to kind of add to that as well, with the financial thing, we talk about banks and with the Thrive Hubs. One thing that we thought about when taking the Thrive Hubs to the actual communities, a lot of times you see in the Athens area, being a native of Athens, a lot of these people in those 3 neighborhoods, they won't go out to a bank or go out to an event in the evening time to learn about financial literacy. And so bringing it to them, partnering with banks such as credit unions and other banks around Athens and surrounding areas, taking someone from the banks to those locations to teach them about how to save from childhood and high school also will help them get to the point, as also Kim mentioned, about how to get to home ownership and how to start saving and knowing financial things at a young age. Because we all know people in those communities, if you don't have money, you don't know how to save, that also affects you physically and also mentally.
Thank you so much for your presentation and the work you guys did. This was great. My question's about the child care access and the tri-share of funding it. When you were doing your research, did you come across many local employers who were interested in participating in a program like that?
So we modeled the TRICARE after a program in Michigan. So we're not able to talk to local employers, but it has been a program that has been successful in Michigan, and would love to see it piloted here, possibly.
Hi, my name is Eris King, and I'm an MSW student at UGA. My question for you with the home ownership programs and partnering with the banks is solving the systemic issue that underlies it as well. I don't know if many people know it, but white and Asian Americans are most likely to get approved for those loans rather than black residents. So how are you going to fight that when those are the people that need the most help?
I appreciate that, and that comes with partnership. When you partner with those banks to understand, here's the community that we're trying to help. We understand that it could be anybody of color in certain communities, but we understand that that is a potential issue. I think the only way to address that is to address it head on and go for it head on. You have the training, you have the credit score, you have the history, you have the rental credit that will be in your favor at that point. We can't control the banks, but we would expect, especially local banks, to be on board and to partner with us, knowing that we've done the work to eliminate the potential for, or to, you can't completely eliminate it, but to decrease the potential to lose the home and not be able to keep the home. So we're depending on the goodwill and the integrity of our local banks. and our training program to back that up. And that is relational. So we believe in working on those relationships to actually create real partnerships that work together to eliminate some of those barriers from the bank. So if the banks tell us, here's what we're looking for, we can help those residents to meet the criteria by putting that into the programs that we will make available. Thank you.
Hey, y'all, thank you for your presentations. Quick question on the Thrive Hubs. I was trying to look as best as I can through are you suggesting, would you move into, like, say, over in Nellie B, like, would you use the Boys and Girls Club? Or are you talking about going into existing spaces or a neighborhood health clinic? Or are you talking about a separate building? Talk a little bit to us about that.
Yeah, great question with that. So pretty much with Thrive Hubs, for example, like Nellie B, we know east side of the town of Athens, that's, one of the poorest parts of the town, honestly. And so with that, going to places like the Boys and Girls Club, somewhere to take it to them. Because a lot of times you have barriers such as transportation. Parents feel like I can't go anywhere because I can't find a babysitter. I don't want to leave my neighborhood where I feel comfortable. And so I feel like taking these services to those neighborhoods like Nellie B, Bethel Homes, and also Brookside West, it kind of gives them a sense of feeling like they're not forgotten, connecting, saying that, hey, they haven't forgot about us. They're bringing the services to us in our neighborhoods where we feel comfortable to help educate us and give us the opportunity to learn more.
So in buildings where they already feel
Safe at home. Correct, yes. You're welcome.
It's twofold. Hi, another follow-up for Thrive Hub. It's twofold. So thinking about partnering with those established infrastructure that's already there, but then also with the developers to make sure that as we build new communities that we have these as a part of the community to really sustain it and to make sure that everyone is supported with these wraparound services. It also pairs well with the nonprofits to make sure that they have a space to come to and serve.
All right. Oh, wait, one more right here.
On the child care topic, to a previous question of discussing these industries, I think you're going to have a better opportunity with them funding this. As everybody knows, of course, with the times now, when you ask government for funding, it's pretty much hurry up and wait, right? So going to these folks that you can build that into these benefits packages, I think it's going to be beneficial to the community as well as those companies. And as these developers are looking at new industrial parks or areas, I work with a region of the state that this is becoming a real thing. So we have a particular industrial park that the companies are working together to fund in collaboration with one another to get that workforce, to get that single mom, that single dad. That they promise you they want to work, they just can't do it. So getting those industries to the table is extremely important. They've got a bigger pocketbook to play with without as many hoops to jump through. So just pushing that, helping those developers, those communities make that part of the site certification plans or different areas for industrial parks. It's just an idea to kick around as well.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. Speaking of that, I guess it's a new company coming to Athens. They have a partnership with Athens-Tech, I believe. That would be a great segue, I think, to pretty much, I think it's bio something, mark me wrong, but bio, yes, right, bio, that's right. Great partnership to be able to talk with them to see some kind of incentive to help with childcare. Because, of course, if the parents can work and they can also afford childcare, it's twofold. So that would be a great way for us to kind of start that conversation to kind of get it started in the community.
All right, well, thank you so much. And last but certainly not least, we'd like to invite the Athens Regional Coalition, the ARC, to the stage.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is John McBrayer, and I serve as the Manager of Community Development at Electric Cities of Georgia, and we are the Athens Regional Coalition, or ARC. To my friends in local government and nonprofit, we love our acronyms, right? So let's keep adding them. That's a joke, by the way. Okay. And we were tasked with the following challenge question. As a regional hub for commerce, culture, education, and healthcare, Athens-Clarke County plays a vital role in Northeast Georgia. How can we balance this regional role and metro growth while prioritizing and addressing critical local challenges? And as you can see, this is a complex challenge question with multiple layers to it. But I can assure you that you have some of the brightest minds across the state working on this, working on solutions for you. And we are so grateful to the community, to the people, to the organizations that poured so much into us and encouraged us to dream big and to think outside the box. And we are thrilled to announce our top 3 big ideas. The first idea is the Change for the Classic City Fund. This is a voluntary community-wide roundup program that will capitalize on the tourism and the generosity of the Athens-Clarke County community and create a flexible funding mechanism to address critical local challenges. The second idea is called Woven Together, and this is a comprehensive transportation strategy that will improve the connectivity, the accessibility, and the quality of life, not only for Athens-Clarke County, but also for the region. And the last idea is Hub City Strong. And this is an initiative that aims to establish Athens as the statewide model for civic partnerships and data sharing. With that being said, I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Stephanie Mann with the Athens Area Community Foundation to talk about the Change for the Classic City Fund. Thank you.
I'm Stephanie Mann, and I get the joy of working in Athens at the Athens Area Community Foundation and to talk about our big idea. So on any given Saturday in Athens, our town becomes filled with the energy of over 100,000 of visitors. And what if we could use these visits to not just fuel football spirit, but fuel real change for the community? That's our big idea, a way for everyone to make small contributions just by rounding up their purchases that add up to real positive change. Our community has a huge spirit of generosity, which you've already heard from so many already today, and this fund is really designed to capture this spirit. On our own, any one business can certainly give back and be generous, and we see this from so many in the room with us today. But together, businesses throughout the community can join something bigger and open new ways for their customers to give back with them. And when we give together, we can make more possible for our community. We can pool our resources, bring efficiency, and generate new charitable dollars. The model is simple, and it's one we're all familiar with. You're in a store or at a concert or even getting snacks at Sanford Stadium, and you have the option to round up on your purchase. Those extra cents go into the Change for the Classic City Fund. Those dollars are pooled together and given back to meet a need in our community, like any of the needs that you've heard from this afternoon. So what will it take to make this big idea happen? It'll take buy-in. It'll take businesses who want to join in, a dedicated staff or fellow who can build those relationships and onboard businesses to join the fund, and a steering committee to guide the fund's direction as dollars are raised. Using really modest projections, we anticipate a fund like this could generate over $100,000 every year of new charitable dollars for our community. And then by concentrating these dollars on a specific need, we can make measurable progress. Small contributions, when they're pooled together, can create visible wins for Athens. Our full report gives greater detail on the action steps needed to bring this idea to life, but to highlight a few, in the short term, form a steering committee that would guide the fund's direction, fund a staff position, and begin building buy-in with business and community partners. In the medium term, open a fund, build the infrastructure that makes it easy for businesses to join, and then launch a marketing campaign. And then in the longer term, align fundraising around a specific community need, raise the dollars, and then give them back to community. The good news is that this idea won't take millions to make happen. With a little bit of initial seed funding to start, the fund becomes a source of new charitable dollars year over year. We can turn game day energy and everyday purchases into powerful, ongoing source of support for our community. If your business or your community partner that's interested in this Change for the Classic City Fund, you can check out our full report. and I will bring up Grace to talk about our Woven Together idea.
Good afternoon. I'm Grace Tishak with Go Georgia. I also have the privilege of living here in Athens. What if Athens became the gold standard for equitable, efficient, and enjoyable transportation? The short answer is it would be completely transformational. Athens' infrastructure would no longer strain under the burden of being a regional hub, but would instead invite visitors and residents to experience real freedom of movement and easy access to everything that the classic city has to offer. Currently, Athens struggles with challenges of traffic congestion, particularly on big event days, escalating safety issues on roadways, and limited mobility options, particularly for the many households living below the poverty line and or without access to a vehicle. So to address these challenges, Woven Together is a four-pronged strategy to position Athens as a transportation leader that other mid-sized cities will strive to emulate. First, Athens would need to work on its local transportation options. So one thing we're recommending is an e-bike rebate program. This would allow low-income residents access to reliable transportation, and we've seen successful models of this in other cities. Particularly in the Atlanta model, we see that these bikes are really used on the day-to-day, really loved by recipients, and also that these programs have a positive economic impact as these rebate sales from local bike shops ripple out into the broader community. So at the same time, Athens' infrastructure would need to keep pace and provide safe spaces for people that need or want to get around the community without a car. One of the most impactful ways to do this is through multi-use trails. Luckily, Athens already has a couple of those. And through Woven Together, we wanted to examine how to increase trail usage and ultimately more trail development, and also explore how focusing on trails could impact Athens as a whole. So one thing we're recommending is Athens to encourage trailside development, both commercial and residential, in very strategic, appropriate places. This would create not only a place that people want to travel through, providing all kinds of connectivity benefits, but creating a really vibrant community space that people want to spend time in. They want to live there, they want to work there, they want to visit there. This would also need to come hand in hand with really strong anti-displacement measures such as trailside affordable housing. So going beyond the local transportation improvements, we also recommend Athens increasing their transit service beyond just Athens-Clarke County. And this would eventually, we hope, result in the creation of a regional transit authority to serve the entire Athens area. This would unite UGA Transit and Athens Transit under one umbrella, potentially keeping individual brands and service lines if desired. But this would really optimize and extend service to areas that currently don't have it, and also capitalize on a limited amount of funding that is available for public transit. Finally, we have an image here of Ben Epps Airport. Bringing commercial air service to Athens has been long discussed and desired by many in the Athens community, and we want to acknowledge that as a true game changer for Athens, something that would really allow this community to level up its tourism, its business recruitment, and its quality of life for residents. I hope if any of these ideas piqued your interest, you'll take a look at the full report. We have so much more detail there, including short, medium, and long-term steps to bring these initiatives to fruition, as well as a range of funding options from local options of impact fees, SPLOST and T-SPLOST, perhaps corporate sponsorships, all the way to state and federal transportation grants. And of course, a number of partnerships would need to come together to move these ideas forward, and we have ideas about that as well. I would love to go through all of the anticipated impacts that go way beyond transportation. But to sum it up, this is about way more than infrastructure. This is reimagining what's possible for Athens, and it's one of the single most important things that this community can do to become a model hub city. Thank you for your time and for hanging in there with us. I'm going to turn it over to Andi to talk about our final big idea.
Thank you, Grace. My name is Andi Leslie. I do economic development for the city of Canton, Georgia, and I live in another hub city, an MSA city in Northwest Georgia. And when I started this program, some of the facilitators said, we put you in this hub city initiative challenge question because we think that you would have a lot to offer. And I was thinking in the back of my head, the joke might be on you guys because we are having these same conversations in the city where I live and worked for many years. And so I say that to say, you guys are asking such insightful questions today. I just want you to know that you are not alone. These same conversations are happening in at least the other 13 MSA cities across the state, if not more than that. And so I hope that makes you feel better. Maybe we just need to go grab a drink afterward and commiserate and cry together. I don't know, but you're not alone. So across Georgia, our mid-sized cities, places like Athens, Macon, Albany, Columbus, they play a vital but often overlooked role. These hub cities serve as regional anchors for healthcare, education, social services, jobs, not just for their own residents, but for surrounding communities and rural areas as well. But these same cities are under pressure, facing complex challenges that are virtually impossible to solve on their own. They're facing rising housing costs, growing mental health needs, food insecurity, workforce gaps, and the strain of doing more with limited resources. And while these challenges are deeply interconnected, so is the opportunity for us to solve them together. And that's what this Hub City Strong is all about. This proposal positions Athens-Clarke County as the hub to test and scale solutions that can work across the state. Athens brings incredible assets to the table, a world-class research university, a deeply engaged nonprofit sector that we've heard about today, the Athens Wellbeing Project and other partners, and a long-standing culture of civic innovation. We think that it's the ideal place to lead this effort. So we're going to break this idea down into 3 strategic tiers: local, regional, and statewide. Locally, we're focused on strengthening civic infrastructure in Athens. These are small-scale, low-hanging fruit initiatives that ACC can achieve with minimal resources. We're going to take City Hall on the road, literally, with a mobile City Hall. We got this idea out of Little Rock, Arkansas. These are pop-up events in underserved neighborhoods that will connect residents directly with services like utility support, voter registration, housing resources, and more. It's all about building access, visibility, and trust in government, while also informing ACC on the current needs of the community. It's what we like to call good old-fashioned community engagement. We'll also translate the ACC strategic plan into a roadmap for success, and I happen to know a community, Canton, Georgia, that has an award-winning roadmap to success, so we'd be happy to share that with you guys. So think of this as your comp plan, but in easily digestible and consumable format. It's a branded public-facing document that clearly shows residents what's being prioritized based on their input and how we're measuring success and where we're going together. Regionally, Athens will lead as a service hub for surrounding communities. We'll expand the resource directory to include neighboring counties and launch a regional impact index to quantify just how many people we're serving, whether they're patients, students, employees, whoever they may be coming in from outside the county. We're also establishing the Athens Hub Task Force, a cross-sector leadership group including city officials, schools, hospitals, nonprofits, and regional partners to align strategies and share resources. Success, as we know, can only be achieved through collaboration. So this is the part where all the Athenians in the room can breathe a sigh of relief, because this recommendation is actually for a state partner. Brian Wallace is in the room, no pressure, Brian. Our ultimate goal here is to create a Georgia Hub Cities Coalition. We envision a formal network housed at the Georgia Municipal Association or the Georgia Association of Regional Commissions, maybe a partnership with both, where hub cities can collaborate, share data, advocate for policy change, and co-develop funding strategies. And GMA actually already has a program. They've got the framework in place, and we just kind of want to take that to the next level. Through this, we'll advocate for a regional service grant program that compensates hub cities for the cross-jurisdictional services they provide, services which currently go unfunded. We're also formalizing a long-term research partnership with UGA, and I hope everybody in the room is familiar with the Athens Wellbeing Project. I was absolutely shook, as the kids say, when Dr. Grace Bagwell-Adams presented that to our group early in this process, and I can tell you, having worked in another MSA city, that that data is and can be transformational and can allow policymakers to make data-informed decisions and educated decisions for the betterment of their community. So through this partnership, we're going to leverage GIS mapping, policy evaluation, and intern pipelines to support these MSA cities across the state. Once funding is established, the goal is to provide the data set from the Athens Wellbeing Project to each of the 13 to 15 MSA cities, depending on which source you're looking at. This coalition will combine efforts, resources, and experiences to develop a blueprint that can be scaled across Georgia. Possible funding, this is always the question, isn't it? The initiative is supported by a range of scalable budgets that start at $10,000, but really that's a very generous overestimation, pilot programs to multi-year state-level investments, and is designed to attract funding from local foundations, state appropriations, federal grants, university partners, and other philanthropic sources. We want to thank the Athens-Clarke County community for inviting us and opening us up and allowing us to ask all the questions, whether they were educated questions, maybe some of them were kind of dumb questions, but especially for those of us who don't live in this community. We thank you for this opportunity. Special shout out to the individuals on the screen for spending extra time with us as we navigated this process. So at this time, we would love to open it up for questions.
I know you're burning inside with your final questions for this group.
Thanks. Hi, I'm John Devine. I am the ED of Go Georgia. We used to be Georgia Bikes, and I hope it's not unfair that I'm also Grace's boss. My big question is, how much is the university paying to have their logo on the tower at the airport? I'm just kidding. Maybe that's a question for the mayor. I guess he's gone, though. We see here in Athens, and this is where I live, even though we're statewide, Echo, Georgia. We see here in Athens that trails really do make a difference in getting people around. They're extremely popular within the community. They have brought people out in droves to support SPLOST and T-SPLOST over the years, passing those packages overwhelmingly when trails are on there to a significant extent. The proposed package that came out of our citizens advisory group has 0 trails on it, and unfortunately we now have to have a campaign called 10 for Trails in Athens where people are petitioning the mayor and commission to put trails back onto the T-SPLOST, and I think that's really because the community hasn't yet gotten to the point where we think about trails as transportation. So finally, the question is, how do we get this community to understand that trails are transportation and not just, while they are indeed, a place to go on a Saturday morning or, Sunday afternoon?
That's a great question, John. I think both you and I wish we had the ultimate answer to that one. But I do think you touched on a big piece of it, which is the advocacy part. I think a lot of people in the community do recognize the value of trails, and it's hard to get that message across, A, to the general public, and B, to our elected officials. I know that my personal commissioner, he's not unsupportive of it, but he's saying he's not hearing from people that this is a priority. And so I think that piece goes hand in hand with getting it to be accepted as transportation, is getting it at a high level with our elected officials accepted as such. That will only help us get more trails built. Sometimes I think it is kind of a build it and they will come situation. We see that a lot in communities that have a lot of pushback to trails, and then we get 1 model mile funded in that community, and all of a sudden everyone is out there and excited and wanting to know how we can get more trails. So I think it's multifactorial, right? But those are some of my initial ideas.
I'd like to add to that as well. So, it goes back to storytelling, absolutely. And John, I know you're familiar with the GDOT economic impact analysis that was done on the Firefly Trail. And so publicizing that information, but also working with communities across the state who have also are experiencing these same issues. Once using your peers is a great way to really lean in and to learn what other communities have done, what works, what doesn't work, so that you can make a better plan moving forward where you have more information and what to do and what not to do, if that makes sense.
Hey, this is to your group and all the rest, but y'all are just last. Since this is a group of people who would likely be the ones to implement a lot of these really excellent recommendations, my question is, does your class have a recommendation for a priority, especially given the fact that the funding slides in each of these presentations have all looked really similar? The community foundation's been on every single slide, HUD, CBDG. So where should we start if we couldn't implement every single thing?
That's a great question, and one that we've kind of thought through as we've navigated this process and hearing the other ideas. I do think ultimately that's going to require all of the stakeholders coming together and figuring out how we can tackle, I'm not in Athens, but how we can tackle some of these things one at a time. But the beautiful thing about our recommendations and the other groups as well, we've offered some that are little to no cost, that are very low-hanging fruit. It's just a matter of one of you as individuals or one of your agencies saying, we're going to tackle this, we can do this easily, and then some, like we've touched on, are really pie in the sky. And so I think that's up to you guys to decide. I wish I had a better answer than that. But we went into way more detail in the written report that I think will help you guys kind of navigate what you can and can't tackle at this time.
All right.
Well, can I just take a minute? Will you just say thank you to the entire Young Game Changers class again, because they've worked tirelessly for many, many months. Thank you, guys. I am Carrie Barnes. I have worked with Young Game Changers actually since 2016. I was a participant in the program, and then I got looped in. I have helped to co-facilitate every class since then, actually, and I'm on the board of Georgia Forward. So I have worked in Georgia communities for many years, and I'm really excited about all the questions about what do we do now, right? And I'll tell you that one of the things that I tell communities a lot is that the kinds of challenges that we face in communities cannot be solved by one person or one organization alone. Did we hear that? Because what that means is that today, this challenge does not fall on the Young Game Changers class to implement. Dun, dun, dun. Right? So the real truth here is that this is a catalyst. Like, this is the moment. We have planted the seed. So our hope is that you guys all walked away with something that inspired you, something that got you excited, something that lit a fire under you that said, oh my goodness, we have to do this, right? This is so important. So to your point, it's all important, right? And you pick up the thing you're excited about. And you pick up the thing you're excited about, right? And let's think about how we can do it together, because they're all important things, right? So we have been talking, our little GMA crew in the back, we were talking about how do we provide better support. So we're already thinking about that. And as Sadie mentioned, the design of the class is intentional. You heard us say that a third of the class is from the local community, a third of the class is from Greater Georgia, and a third of the class is from Metro Atlanta. So one of the reasons why we do that is because you have a coalition of people in this community who are invested in these ideas, and our hope is that you will walk alongside them. You will support them in helping to implement these ideas, because remember, we cannot do this alone. And I'm going to leave you with this quote. I'm sure you've all heard it. But it says, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has." So that's what I want us to think about, is how can we work hard to change Athens just bit by bit. It doesn't have to be solving world peace. We don't have to solve every problem, but we have to work a little harder to make this an even better, more vibrant community. So the other thing I'm going to say is this. If you were excited by today, and if you are between the ages of 25 and 40, we are going to be doing this all again next year in Hinesville, which is way down near Savannah, which is fun, right? Some of you want to go to Savannah? So if you are a young game changer, or a potential young game changer, if you know a young game changer, if you know somebody who would be interested, we have our applications open right now, and they are going to be closing on December the 12th. So if you'd like to be a young game changer, or you know somebody who would be a good fit, we welcome them to apply. So thank you guys again for your time and energy. We're really excited about the wonderful things that are to come in Athens-Clarke County. So thank you guys, and we hope you have a wonderful day.